on, y'all? It's Chewy Gomez out here with the Lava Mae folks. These folks are doing a great job and a great service to the community for those folks out there that are homeless, and not even the homeless. I mean, there's a lot of folks that are using this that aren't homeless, right?
It's true, yeah. There's a lot of low-income folks or folks that are housed in places where maybe the showers don't work, or they're unsavory, or maybe they're not private, or not always hot. So we do serve primarily houseless folks on the street.
Now, folks taking a shower, they don't want to get back in their dirty clothes. Is there an option for them to get some clothes at all here? I don't know.
We do have clothing donations. You know, it's all donation based, so the stock fluctuates. But we do have a lot of volunteers or even community members that bring clothes out. So we typically do stock underwear and socks always. If you got goods.
Oh, nice. So if you guys got some socks, you guys care to donate, you got some extra shirts. You know, we all outgrow our shirts. I'm into a 3X now, so I got to donate my 2Xs. But yo, get down there and connect with lavamae.org and make your donations.
Again, this is Nita B with Word on the Curb, and it's good to see y'all. And Mr. Quick is out and about in the world, so Miss Joyous is going to be stepping in to have conversation today. Miss Tracy still hasn't come, but we ain't gonna give up on our girl. We know that she's gonna be out here one of these days, and I realized that my volume needs to be put down here. All right. So we the theme for today, we're gonna of course talk about what's happening on the federal level, how it's trickling it down here. But we're gonna get into women in homelessness, women who are unhoused, and that's gonna be the main theme for today's show. But let's kick it off. Oh, affirmation of the day. This is one of my affirmations that I use daily, and I put it everywhere I go. Actually, my folks, Julio Soro, out in San Francisco, he used to always say this, and so I picked it up from him. Maintain your greatness. Maintain your greatness. And that's a daily motto I say to myself many a times, because many a times I'm sure all of us are faced with situations that try to shake us from our greatness. And when I'm in those moments, I wake up in the morning and say, maintain my greatness. Maintain your greatness. If I deal with a challenging situation, maintain your greatness. Your thoughts, Joyous, about that motto?
Yeah, you definitely use that a lot. It's something that I also will be saying in my life.
Yeah, it works. It's a good saying. So hopefully that's a helpful phrase for folks out there if you're looking for something to think about when you're getting challenged. Just remember to maintain your greatness. But let's jump into the federal government today. We're going to talk about, they're doing all this slashing. There's so much going on. Like, what is there not to talk about? So, of course, because our focus is around housing justice, we're going to focus on what's happening with housing. in the federal government and how it's trickling it down over here. So one of the things I'm sure many people who do use HUD, we've never, as a child, and then fortunately, as Joyous, being Joyce's mother, I never had to deal with HUD housing Section 8, but I know plenty of people who do. And it's a messed up system. It's messed up, but the reality is, at the end of the day, even though it's so messed up and it's developed to keep people stagnant, developed to keep people waiting, developed to keep people stuck, developed to keep people dependent, it keeps people from being unhoused. So it's like a stopgap to the bottom, and they want to cut all that. So let's go watch this video we got set up, and then we're going to get into some conversation and present some facts and statistics about how this is going to impact all of us.
A new set of federal cuts at the hands of the Trump administration will impact the number of grants the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development can offer to organizations.
Along with these latest reductions, the department has lost hundreds of employees as DOGE aims to reduce federal spending. WGN's Jewel Hillary reports.
This past Valentine's Day, just days away from completing her probationary period, Jana Lennon received a termination letter.
It was really surreal. So yeah, it was a crazy day.
Often called the front door to HUD, Jana worked in the department's Office of Field Policy and Management. In part, that team answers thousands of calls guiding residents to HUD resources.
A lot of times the questions they had were about fair housing complaints. Without us, those calls will go unanswered.
In 2023, HUD's Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity awarded about $30 million in grants to nonprofits nationwide. The money helped investigate and litigate housing discrimination and educate communities of their rights. On Saturday, the AP reported that the Trump administration plans to cut nearly half of the 162 HUD grants to organizations for fair housing.
Without federal funding, those agencies will not be able to do the same work. And then if HUD internally has less capacity, it just really dismantles a system that was meant to protect people against housing discrimination.
In a statement, a spokesperson for HUD said the department is responsible for ensuring our grantees and contractors are in compliance with the president's executive orders. If we determine they are not in compliance, then we are required to take action. The department will continue to serve the American people, including those who are facing housing discrimination or eviction.
I left a separate job, took a pay cut to be able to serve my community.
After just 6 weeks serving as a financial analyst under HUD's Office of Public and Indian Housing, Frank Zhu was terminated too. Frank's work ensured public housing authorities across the state, including the Chicago Housing Authority, covered housing costs for low-income residents.
The Chicago Housing Authority covers about 80,000 families worth of housing. This includes housing choice vouchers. This includes public housing. These are the families where HUD subsidizes a portion of their income to make sure that they can cover rent. And if these funds are cut, we're talking about tens of thousands, maybe millions of families that could lose access to safe and secure housing.
Frank says one of the things HUD is most known for is issuing community development block grants. Shelter and youth services, safety, mental health, and supporting people with disabilities are just some of the areas those resources go towards. Now, many of the people who issue those community grants have been let go.
That office within HUD that issues it is about currently 900 plus employees. And as far as we've seen, there are plans to cut it down to 150 employees, which is almost an 84% cut.
In spite of this challenging and uncertain time, Frank says he's most concerned about the residents he looked forward to serving.
Honestly, I'm much more bummed about the state of our country, and also my being removed before I could even have a chance to really do my part for my compatriots, my fellow Chicagoans.
And naturally, Jana feels overwhelmed, but says she's grateful for her support system.
I've learned more than ever that it's like the people around us who can lift us up, and I want to be mindful about what I can be doing.
Reporting for WGN News, I'm Jewel Hillary.
Man, That's a lot, right? So they want to get rid of money that's fighting for people to keep their housing if they're facing discrimination. They want to get rid of the staff that already is overburdened as it is. We don't need less staff, we need more staff. You know, that was a crazy number they had, that 170 cases. Did I hear that right? 170 cases per staff? That's ridiculous. You actually can never get anyone into housing with that many people on your case. You literally, the best, from my experience of trying to work through the system with people, help people navigate the system, the best number that somebody could get to be super effective is 7. Give somebody 7 people, not 170, and then you got to work with that person, all those 7 people, every day for 2 weeks straight. Not try to figure out and juggle how am I going to do 170 and I don't even have a timeline. No, in 2 weeks you got to put 7 people in housing, period. That is workable and realistic, but the structure don't work, but the fact that they're gutting it isn't the solution. You know, they actually need to improve it and make sure that people's basic needs are getting met. You know.
Yeah, it was crazy that they fired so many staff and not even talking about replacements or anything like that. It really makes you think about how they want us to stay down.
For real. For real. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, DJ Igor?
You know, I'm just in the back thinking that we already looking for jobs. You taking away jobs. We already looking for homeless places for people to live, and you about to put some more people out. That's never been unhoused. They've had a job.
Yeah.
So it's like you creating a whole new system of being unhoused.
For real. It's becoming like deeply like overburdened and impacted. Like the system as it exists cannot take care of unhoused folks properly, and it's just the scales are tipping. Like you said, you know, it's just like the scales are tipping and they're creating a new crisis on purpose, mind you. Let's not forget that this is all happening by design. You know, push comes to shove, man. I want to share some stats about what's happening. Sorry, let me look through this. So right now we're at the highest point in HUD's history where they've actually been able to for keeping records, and their records are showing that this is also the highest amount of homelessness they've had, and chronic homelessness, and family homelessness, and unsheltered homelessness, meaning people not living in shelters or in tough sheds, like people just out on the streets, period. And or RVs, just nothing, just out there. And what's so crazy too is that this is going to also hurt the landlords, because the landlords are not going to be able to, you know, that's one thing, is that HUD money for a landlord at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, that is guaranteed money. There was a time in Oakland where majority of the landlords who were owned by families, not real estate companies or property management companies, not these faceless corporate structures, but someone's grandma owned that house that you're paying rent for. And so that $1,600 a month was guaranteed income. And having homes and renters accepting HUD vouchers was commonplace in Oakland up until about 10 years ago, when they're like, I could get so much more than $1,600. And it was a mix of that, of like these new corporate folks not wanting that money, wanting the rich people's money, and the mom and pops places also needing that money, but even more so, the families losing their homes or selling their homes and just getting completely out of the whole game of market housing. And so you weren't able to have that conversation with someone's relative or one of your homies' parents or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were dealing with a corporation who wanted more money and you could not produce, and they're not going to deal with HUD. And when we first started doing this work with the village, we met so many people on the streets who had housing vouchers, but nobody in Oakland would take them. And the thing with HUD, with housing vouchers, so wherever you get your voucher at, so if you get your voucher in Oakland, for folks who don't know, you have to, if you can use that voucher in another city within the county you're in, but you got to stay in that city that you got your voucher in for a year. And so I help people, even though I never had to deal with housing, public housing, I help people fill out their paperwork. And so I was familiar with the laws. And then one time I was helping someone fill out their paperwork for Oakland HUD, Oakland Housing Authority. And I opened it up, to fill paperwork, and boom, giant. It's they got the little newspaper booklets, 8.5 by 11, and boom, big old entire page. You can take your Oakland voucher to another city. No other city, and I did more research, no other city in Alameda, and who knows where else this is happening across the country, can you just take your voucher that you just got and haven't been here for a year and take it to another city? It was just that bad. And what was so deep about it is that it was systemic, like the county, the state, and to some extent the federal government knew that people in Oakland, landlords in Oakland, were not taking these HUD vouchers. But rather than hold the landlords accountable to work with the resources that the people had, they're like, we'll just let them do what they're going to do with the housing and increase rent. And we'll just change this federal law so people can go to other cities if you're in Oakland. So this corruption in this government has been happening. We all know this forever. It's just another example. But it's going to deeply impact people. It really will. And then another part of the program that is getting cut is they're called like anti-displacement funds. It's to help people. Another Band-Aid situation, not long-term at all, but it's what people got. It's what we got. That if you can't pay your rent or a utility for like 1 month, and only 1 month, I believe, and you're at that place where you're gonna get kicked out, you got that eviction notice, they'll pay it. But like I said, there's no long-term solution to it. So it's a very short gap Band-Aid. But they're cutting that too. I don't know, maybe there's a better way to use these funds, to improve the HUD system, but gutting it out is not the solution, and we all know that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. They can just change the law like that. But they do that with a whole bunch of other laws, too. So I feel like we're now in a place of like, well, if the government's not doing what they said they're doing and living by the rules they put down themselves, who's going to check them,
Right. Yeah, what we do know is that housing affordability is becoming more and more scarce as we speak. And homelessness is growing larger and larger as we speak, not just here in Oakland, not just in California, but all over the country. And I want to say something that, let's think about this. We're catching up to the rest of the world. When they came here and colonized this land, what we're experiencing now is kind of what the natives went through, but deeper. Like, they was on some genocide shit. They were on some genocide shit. But that whole erasing a population, taking the resources the population is living on, and creating reservations, creating places that people go to when they're not wanted in the society, where they're not going to be able to have like basic standard needs being met, and then they went all over the world and did that. And it's like, roosters come home to roost. Chickens all look different, but the roosters always come home to roost, and this is one of those moments. Those roosters are coming home to roost. I always call it Columbus is karma. We live cyclical. They say all these cliches. History repeats itself. It's a cliche because it's real, but it don't repeat itself like in a circle. It repeats itself in a spiral. And that spiral is what allows us to change things. And if we don't change things, we go right back to the beginning of that circle and do it all over again. And as far as this land is concerned, we never dealt with Columbus's karma. and it's coming full circle. I feel like the first time Trump got elected, we have these things I call movement moments throughout my life, because I've been active for so long. Like, things happen, and it's like a movement moment for like all of humanity, or all of a community, or all of a nation, to like have that moment to change some shit. And we have a bunch of them, and we have bum bum bum, right? We had a bum bum bum. Like, first one, Trump got elected the first time. Second one, COVID. COVID was a big one. COVID was like planetary. That was like the whole world. Everybody in the world knows this shit don't work. This shit don't work. But it's like, how do we stop it? This fucking invisible, even if it was like biological warfare, it was out of their control, out of their hands, and it took a whole life onto itself. And this invisible thing made the entire world stop. And we had a movement moment of like planetary size to be like, let's try something different. And so many of us wanted something different before COVID. And what were people saying during COVID? We just want things to get back to normal. You know? We're in a movement moment right now. I don't want things to go back to normal. I want things to go back the way they're supposed to be. It's a movement moment. And because of what this fool is doing, it is planetary. And unfortunately, it might be violent. COVID didn't have to be violent. The planetary kind of, the way everyone was at, there was going to be the least amount of violence possible. But, yeah, I don't know. Y'all got any thoughts to share about any of that? It's just wild, man.
Yeah, I agree with you on the this is our time and moment to like actually sit back and look at stuff, you know. I feel like when Trump got elected, I think we all knew it was gonna happen, but it should have been like an aha moment for us, and I don't think a lot of us got it, but there's still time for us to get it, because, you know, it may not be on the news, but he's signing petitions, like he's changing stuff, you know.
He's trying
And
yeah.
we need to act now before he changes to where we can't like turn back.
Yeah. And I think the crazy thing is like he tries to change things first by writing the they call them executive orders, you know. But judges are stepping up trying to stop it, but he's ignoring the judges. Like, he's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants to do, and that is what Trump does, and everyone's known that's what Trump does before he was president. He's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants to do. And now he's in charge of this country. Kind of, because Elon Musk is in charge of this country. This shit is wild. Wild. Yo.
When I sit back and see the moves that's going on right now, I always think about, things that we said yesteryear about the president, like, oh, the president's just a puppet, he's just in a position. And these is one of those times that make you think, okay, well, who the hell is Trump's handler? And what are they saying? If that position is just a puppet position, who's he pulling strings for?
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's the thing about this particular. Yeah, I feel like each presidency or each, like, I'm gonna even say it, mayorship to an extent, governorship, but really, like, you know what I'm saying, reveals more and more and more of the illusion and the corruption, and I think with this, what we're seeing right now is like, this is a corporation, period. The United States of America Corp.
Well, it's been that way.
Yes. But people don't realize that, no, that's actually what it is. But now it's like, it's being run by CEOs, period. And I think his handlers are anyone who can pay him money. Anyone he can do business with, or is who his handlers are. You feel me? Because Trump is not a politician. He is a business person. It's the corporate, what do you call it? And it all come together, solidifying the United States as a corporation. Mm-hmm. So we have all these nations across the country. We have all these nations that are trying to exist, fighting to exist, and then we have a corporation that's causing havoc upon everything. It's wild. And the bottom of all of this are the landless, the people who don't own the land, who don't have a piece of land to stand on, while they play games with our lives. So that being said, let's get into this video. When we come back, we're going to talk about a particular demographic of the unhoused population, and that's unhoused women. Oh, not this video.
You know,
Go ahead, just go ahead. No, it was Boogie Down Productions. The homeless. All right. Yep, KRS One. All right, let's go ahead and watch. Okay, we're gonna just jump in. Okay, before we jump in, let me share some more stuff. Rewind. So here in Oakland, California, women make up 50% of the population of the residents of Oakland, California. However, according to the latest point in time count, which was in 2022, when they attempted to count as many unhoused people they can see. That's the key part of what they call a point in time. They go out in the middle of the night in January, and whoever they see is who they count as homeless. And that number is like almost 6,000 here in Oakland, but it's like at least double that, really, truly. Because they don't go, like a lot of the folks, nonprofits that do outreach, you know, they don't go knock on doors. They don't go like in the encampments, and they stand across the street sometimes or walk along the sidewalk and whoever they see. And if you're out there that late at night, the people you were seeing who are still up probably don't live there. So that's wild. But so we make up 50% of Oakland, California population. And 36% of the counted unhoused people in Oakland. And then, according to a whole bunch of different studies, actually, many reports, many studies over and over again, show that women who are unhoused experience more sexual violence in their lives, more substance abuse, more mental health situations, more physical health situations than women who are housed and their unhoused counterpart men. Like, unhoused women are the ones who are like getting the brunt of their body breaking down, their minds breaking down more than the other populations. For the women who are unhoused, on average, we spend more than a decade without the benefit of stable housing. So this last time, I say last time because I've been unhoused 3 times in my life. And when I add up the 8 years that we just did and the past 2 times I was unhoused, it's more than 10 years in total of my life. And I'm 54. So more than 10 years of my life I have spent without a roof over my head. Or could call it my own because I would be couch surfing too. Or have a hotel or have an RV. You know, just not somewhere stable, let's say that. A recent report from the University of California, San Francisco, found that 43% of all unhoused women report experiencing sexual violence during their lives, and say 16% say that sexual violence occurred while they were unhoused. An estimated 40% of homeless women between the ages of 18 to 24 are pregnant. That's so crazy. I was unhoused while I was pregnant with her because I left her dad. That's a whole nother story. But it was the situation where like I'd be better off just be unhoused at this point, just leaving this situation. And I'm grateful because I always had a couch to be on. For real. And that's a wild situation. But let's go show this video called Dignity and a little bit about it. So we actually, because we were addressing the situation of there were unhoused women out here. Some were trying to stay sober, some were trying to get sober, and some were already sober. And many of us had children or who were younger than us that we were still taking care of, or children who were older than us taking care of us. And so we decided to start this encampment over on Eads and Elmhurst on public land. It had been empty for 20 years. It used to be a liquor store, and then the city took it over and did nothing with it for 20 years. A lot of trash piled up on there. And so we cleaned up the trash and we set up a community. And this is the story of that community. And this video is called Dignity. We have a whole bunch of volunteers. And one of our volunteers, Devi, she made this while she was a high school student at Oakland School of the Arts.
You know, there are things like poverty, racism, injustice, but I think if you dig underneath that, if you dig underneath all of that to look for the causes of it, you will find a heart condition. To me, it's a heart condition. It's displacement in its most evil form. My name is Regina Evans, and I'm the owner of Regina Store Vintage Boutique, which is a social enterprise to help support survivors of trafficking. Gentrification, in a nutshell, is displacement. And I understand that in the course of life, things change, but it's how they change.
Some view it as an opportunity to build up the neighborhood so that the middle class can move in. Those individuals who have lived in that area, who've grown up and made that community what it is, can no longer afford to stay in there. So they are unfortunately displaced.
I think probably within the last year and a half, there have been about 10 Black businesses that have shuttered just in this area here.
So we have a number of families, particularly women with children, who are living in their cars, living on the streets, and we don't really have a family shelter in the city of Oakland. One, their pay level is less than men, and two, because the prices are just rising in Oakland.
I've gotten calls and incidents of girls being trafficked, young girls, being trafficked out of the homeless encampments. Like, how much more vulnerable can you be?
Well, this encampment has been around since October 27. Its primary needs are for women and children and families. Basically, we have different organizations that came together, and we decided to make our own idea of what an encampment should look like.
This is our dining area and our kitchen area. And then this is our medical tent. So we provide medical services to the community every Saturday. And our vision is for this whole plot. So everything all the way to Clara Street, this is all a continuous parcel.
Hay muchos, los jóvenes somos de muchas diferentes índoles de sociedad, ya sea también alcohólicos, drogadictos, también simplemente nomás, somos gente que viene de México y no tiene estabilidad porque todo el dinero lo mandan para México, o muchas cosas pasan para que estar uno homeless, ¿verdad? Pero yo no quiero estar homeless así, yo quiero tener otra vez un lugar en la sociedad, yo quiero volver a tener mi casa, un trabajo, yo quiero salir adelante, no me quiero seguir sintiendo como una escoria de la sociedad toda mi vida.
Something of a renegade, the will of a god, the voice in the streets, the heat after the tick, tick, boom. When you hear me speak, I'ma eat every evil that you breathe, though smoke coming out my lips like a dragon coming up on a lick. Watch quick, though I'm a slave to the system. My indecision got me resistant. Call it the raw in me, call it the fall in me, call it the father in me. You invoking the enemy of enemies that will not fall prey to the capitalistic mental, bankrupting these American dreams while American people live out in the streets. Not checking, you don't want this, that 80 deep at Libby Streets, like give my people a plate to eat, a place to sleep, lest I call upon the sound. For in the beginning there was the word, and I was gifted with a silver tongue to lay asunder you foolish bums.
Homelessness is not a crime. 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 Homelessness is not a crime.
This was Housing and Dignity Village, a safe encampment for unhoused women who want to get and stay sober.
Homelessness is not a crime. Homelessness is not a crime. Homelessness is not a crime.
Right now, they are trashing our community garden. So not only was this a curbside community, it was a resource hub for the house and unhoused neighbors.
Homelessness is not a crime.
Are we going to walk through a change in a compassionate way where we are each other's neighbors, where we're in relationship with people, where we say, what are your needs, what are my needs? Or are we going to walk around with blinders on?
We're getting shut down because we are outspoken and we're advocates not for ourselves, but for everybody else. So they're shutting us down to keep us quiet. But it's not going to work. We're just going to get louder. So yeah, that entire thing was done by high school students. That was so dope. You remember Housing and Dignity Village?
I do, man. That place is really cool. Me and my sister be there. We had like, I forgot the name. What was it, like a yurt?
Yes. Someone donated 2 yurts. And one of the yurts was the community space where the kids could do homework and just chill out. And then later on, as more people moved in, we converted that into someone's home.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids could do homework in the kitchen area.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We had the kitchen area. We had like the little first aid thing. We also made like a compostable toilet, which I was a little sketched out at first. I was like, what you mean sprinkle sawdust? But it worked out.
So for folks who don't know, a compostable toilet, I didn't know. This was a learning process for me too. It basically is like an old school like toilet where like before there was plumbing, and we had two. So when we went around and got there, we talked to the neighbors, the housed neighbors, and we talked to the unhoused neighbors, and got a sense of what people needed or what people wanted. And one of the things that we had asked the housed folks was, what is your like biggest issue or problem or concern with your unhoused neighbors? And overwhelmingly, it was people are just taking a shit on the streets. And I mean, where else is people supposed to go sometimes? Bushes too. But you know what I'm saying? It is understandable you don't want to see that, but people got to go. So our answer to it was to build 2 compostable toilets, because according to the architects, the scientists behind this whole design, we had enough land, like you saw in that video, and we also knew we weren't going to be there for a while, so we also knew that. So the idea is that you shit in these buckets, piss in these buckets, only shit and piss, and then you have sawdust. And we had someone hooked up from like a sawmill up in Napa, sawdust getting delivered. It was fucking awesome, or whatever that was, wherever it is, right? And every time you poop, you just put the sawdust over the bucket. And we use those yellow $3.95 buckets with the lids that you can get at Home Depot. Cover it and stack it. And the idea is that you just let it sit there for a year, for 365 days. And what happens is it does its thing, and it actually transforms into fertilized dirt. That is perfect for, like, dirt. It's actual dirt. And I didn't believe it, and then I saw it, and I was like, you know what, this could probably work. Let's give it a try. And it solved the problem in the neighborhood, and the garden that would have, been used on wouldn't have happened for, we knew we were going to be there that long. And if we were there that long, that garden, it would take a whole year to get to that place where we would actually use that dirt. So it all worked out. But we knew we weren't going to be there that long. And we knew the city was going to come. And that's another thing. There was no smell, right?
That's
Zero
what was so
smell.
crazy. It just smelled like
no
wood.
smell. It smelled like pine trees and maple trees. No freaking smell. And so in the midst of them evicting us, we knew this was going to happen. We had all our buckets all lined up. And mind you, this is not just for our encampment, the folks who live there. All the unhoused people in the neighborhood used it. People who was just kicking it. A lot of people came to hang out at the space a lot. People who were housed came to hang out. Everybody was using it. So we had a lot of buckets. And one of my guilty pleasures was the city didn't know what those buckets were. When they came and demolished us, they literally had a shit show. I just felt like it was poetic justice, But yeah,
It was cool.
It was cool.
I feel like if the zombie apocalypse ever happened,
We're
I don't
ready.
need to worry about a bathroom.
And we're ready. I think being unhoused this last time around, for me at least, definitely got me prepared for the apocalypse or the shutdown of this society. For real. Do you have any thoughts, Igor, about that film? Anything come up for you?
I'm just taking it in. It's because, I was just looking at just like, man, all that land.
Man.
They couldn't think to build nothing solid. Just not the people that was there, but just the people that was complaining. Okay, the city don't want you there, so we just gonna clear you out and leave the land blank. We not gonna think of building something solid that they can use or at least navigate to the next step.
Something.
Yeah.
And that land had been marked for affordable housing, which at that time, 20, almost 30 years ago, would have been a totally different market rate. But it just sat there with all these homeless folks living around there in their vehicles. It was a lot of vehicle dwellers in that neighborhood, not so many tents. And
my thing is, if you can live in a tent, you can live in a tiny home.
Yeah.
So why hasn't some of these people came together to make a legitimate tiny home community? I'm talking about with electricity and plumbing.
Yep. Yep. That's what the city was supposed to do with all the funding they got. Because we did a tiny home community. We had solar electricity, no plumbing. And then they bulldoze. Every time the city bulldozes something that we do, they jump right into it and try to replicate it, wasting millions of dollars and not helping anybody, traumatizing a whole lot of people.
Right.
They were supposed to do that. And then everyone who actually tries to do that, they're like, no. There is no political will to house unhoused people in Oakland, period. That doesn't exist in this city hall.
Yeah.
There's no interest.
There has to be an agenda to that for them.
Absolutely. To make Oakland the playground it is that they want it to be. This is no longer a sanctuary for poor and working class people. This is going to be the playground for the rich. And building homes for people that they're trying to get out of the homes that they used to live in.
Right.
Does not fulfill. They didn't want people to be in those homes so that they could put other people in, so they could bring the rich in and have rooms for the rich, and have empty houses for developers.
But it's crazy because, like you said, it's a lot of buildings. And since I heard you saying, I've been noticing it more. It's a lot of buildings downtown that's empty.
Yes, there are.
That's empty. That's just sitting
there, empty. And some of them are storefronts. Storefronts come and go, come and go, come and go. There's very little sustainability and longevity. But then there's all those condos and luxury apartments, and they're empty. And they've been empty for some of them for a decade.
That's crazy.
That don't even make no sense.
That's crazy.
That's like the thing of HUD being like, oh, no landlords will take Section 8. Okay, let's just let people from Oakland break the law and go somewhere else. If you have a housing crisis and a homeless crisis, and you have an empty building sitting there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, the government could also change the law, couldn't it?
Right.
Just like it changed the law for the landlords. Oh, that's why, because it's for the landlords. They ain't going to change it for the people. You know, profits before people, right? That's how this country works. The priority is money, not the quality of life, and not what's good for like humans or what's good for a community. It's wild, man. So, but we out here and we resilient, and you know, despite it all. One thing too is everybody in that lived on that encampment that was unhoused, everybody but one person is housed. We all got housing, all of us, but we didn't get housing through like the nonprofits or the cities per se. Tracy did. Tracy got housing through, but not through the city, through a whole different program through the county. And yeah, the rest of us got housed too. It was a good thing. Man. And then there's an encampment. The next film we're going to watch is about another encampment of women, mostly women, that started in West Oakland. They call themselves the Fifth Street Natives. It's right there on 5th and Mandela. And that place is near and dear to my heart, that area. One, Joyce was born like a few blocks away in our living room on Center Street. And that warehouse, they live right across a warehouse now that's like a parking spot for commuters to park there or semis to park there. But more than 20 years ago, a whole bunch of us kids got together and pooled our resources and started renting that warehouse for all the different stuff that we did. And I ran an arts program called Mandela Arts Center, and later on, I let the kids take over, you know, and I work into the leadership. So one of the rules was every 3 years we change the name of the organization, and that no one above 30 can work here. As you get close to 30, get ready to exit. Let this thing be run by the young people. So it later became known as Rapparation Records, because that's the name the youngsters voted on. But it's so crazy to go there now because that place has so many memories of so many dope things that happened out of that warehouse, and so much dope stuff happened out of there. And now it's just like parking. And across the street is this huge community that never used to be there. What also is not there anymore is a yeast factory that had a 100-year lease end in like 2001, because you were still the baby, and the city was going to renew the lease to the yeast factory, and that yeast factory contributed to like the overall like deterioration of health. Like everybody in that neighborhood, like I said, I was unhoused while I was pregnant with her, and then my folks got a spot on Center and 9th. A couple of folks had been bouncing around. I guess all of us had been bouncing around, and one of the folks bouncing around got a spot on Center and 9th and said, "Come on," and everyone came, and we all lived there. And it was just coincidental that down the street is where we were doing stuff out of the warehouse, or maybe not coincidental, but everyone in that neighborhood had a respiratory problem. You know, between the BART and the freeways and the factories and the semi-trucks and that fucking yeast factory where everywhere you went, like within a certain radius, all you smelled was yeast. And the community like really got involved. I'm really proud of what our young people did because they showed up to all the council meetings and the environmental equity board meetings and all the environmental meetings, but they showed up spitting songs and raps and poetry. Instead of speaking for 3 minutes, they just spit art for 3 minutes. And that was such an impactful way to shake up that meeting and like get to people's hearts, get to their souls. Like, what the hell are you doing? All that to say that they changed their mind and decided not to rent or release the land to the factory. So the factory's not there anymore, but what is there is this huge encampment. And they call themselves the Fifth Street Natives, and let's check them out.
I've always picked up a hammer and I've built things before. I'm not homeless. I've built myself a home. What do you do if you have no savings? You have to survive. My name's Nikki Cooper. I was raised in Berkeley, California. I'm one of the first females that was on this block. What led me to being homeless was we had a 4-bedroom house. We rented out one of the rooms to the landlord. He wound up kicking us out, and I sent my son to my mom's house because I was looking at another case.
My name is Sandra Martin. I'm from Richmond, California, and I am one of the natives of the Fifth Street Natives. I heard that my mom was out here in West Oakland. My mom OD'd, and she died right in my arms. I felt like drugs were about to take my mom from me again. So I'm working on my mom, and I broke her chest plate. And I got closer to her heart, to where I was able to massage, and her heart came back. And I couldn't just leave her out here. So I left the indoors to come out here outdoors to be with my mom. Set up a tent and met Nikki, and we clicked and hung out, and she's this amazing woman. She's so strong.
Here on the streets, things are done differently. There is a different politics. For being a female on the street is incredibly hard. An incident took place where one of the women was raped. So me, her, another woman moved here. Fifth Street Natives is a nickname we gave ourselves originally because we live on Fifth Street, and hey, we're all natives from here. So that's how we kind of came with Fifth Street Natives.
Being a woman, being victimized by a man, knowing you're vulnerable, kind of empowered me a little bit to embrace the fact that I am a woman. If that's what a man's gonna be, I don't need it.
Women need women. We need each other to be strong. That unity that among us females that did start this, I mean, we had guys that come to help us, but this was us.
In the beginning of the camp, it was hectic. We were all bumping heads or trying to figure out the spaces. It turned from a really empty, miserable looking street to a real gated community. It turned into something that people stop and admire.
Day to day is waking up, having my coffee, which I enjoy, going to get water, washing dishes, washing your clothes, hanging them out, and I'm getting ready for the rain. I don't know if we're gonna get kicked out of here or not. We were doing really good, but our block's grown. If they come fence us off, I don't know where I'm gonna go. Probably start some other campaign to keep doing supplies and raising consciousness of people who can get displaced.
Oh, the future looks beautiful because I'll be living. I might be living in a tent, but that's the thing, I'm living regardless. We're out here trying to build from the ashes that we burned in, just like a phoenix, you know, you get reborn from your ashes. And that's just all we're trying to do. We're trying to come back from our ashes is all.
Yeah. Do you remember those folks over on Fifth and Mandela?
I know where that encampment is. It is pretty big, and I remember driving by. They had like this fence up, and it was painted, and they had like really like I want to say affirmation messages on them, just like some good words.
Yeah, and they had a lot of art on there too. Yeah, it was good, and I say was because they got evicted about 3 weeks ago. They got demolished, and I can't say where I know everyone is at. You know, and that was just a really powerful group of women out there doing it and taking care of each other and taking care of folks who came and joined their encampment too. And shout out to Maven Carter Griffith. She is the unhoused woman and the person who started Wood Street before it became this crazy ass thing that the city created. You know, we met her in 2016. But she coined this term curbside communities just because there was, you know, a lot of the stereotypes or the criminalization or the negativity that's attached with the word homeless or unhoused or encampments. She coined that term and it spread like wildfire. And so folks out here on the streets refer to encampments as curbside communities. Some folks call themselves, like Nikki does, a curbside dweller. Maven will call herself, Maven calls herself a curbside dweller, and Nikki says a curbside citizen. So, yeah, I hope what people see and what we've been showing over the past, few months is that the stereotypes of who's unhoused or what an unhoused person is don't match what we're showing you. Don't believe the stereotypes. And one good way you can do that is by getting out there and talking to your unhoused neighbors. If you work near an unhoused encampment or you work near somebody that posts up under a doorway every single day, drop off some water. If due to the door is passed out, leave the water bottle there. He'll need it when he wakes up. Next time say hi to him. And if he can't function well, just, recognize his presence or her presence and keep it moving. Maybe just drop a water bottle. That's a simple act people can do every day. Just drop a water bottle off to the person who lives in the doorway by your office. For real, But yeah, get to know the unhoused people where you live and work. They're people too. They're because it's so crazy doing being someone who's done this advocacy work and then living it. And people don't believe when we were unhoused. People didn't believe we were unhoused, But I've witnessed over and over and over and over again the kind of discrimination people get. And then when people do find out I was unhoused, like in professional settings or in trying to get a lease for the village, which did not happen, for many years, they would not rent to the village because we served unhoused people. They didn't realize our whole staff is unhoused. Just the idea that we serviced unhoused people became a real big hindrance in us trying to find a space. But for the organization, not even for our own housing, But I've seen the discrimination people face over and over and over again. Services they are due at the doctor's office, or trying to buy a coffee, or trying to, buy something in McDonald's, or trying to get on the bus. Like, that's still a human being. You know what I'm saying? And they're probably and clearly they're going through it. So to hate on them even more is a trip to me. That's some what do you call them? Victim blaming. Hating unhoused people for being unhoused is some weird stuff, y'all. If that idea is in your head, why? Why do you hate unhoused people for being unhoused? And I know the argument is well, they choose to be. Nah. Yeah, there are people out there, but a majority of people do not want to be out there, I'm telling you. I just turned in a list of all the folks who live on East 12th between 16th and 18th Avenue. 189 people live there in a very compacted space because people are buddying up. And, with all the evictions happening, people are going there. And out of the 189 names, there's an additional 3 names of folks who don't want services. Out of 189 people, there's 3 other folks outside of that 189 who don't want services. And that's who you're talking about, and that's a minority. So when you start saying stuff like, oh, unhoused people choose to be unhoused, you're talking about 3 people out of more than 200. Out of 201 people, 3 people want to be unhoused. They choose to stay out there. Everyone else wants to get inside and can't. That's where we're living at right now. And then we've got the folks who want to be out there and aren't struggling, but are downsizing, trying to be zenned out. And they're not looked down on. Like the middle class folks who want to live in tiny homes because they want to leave their mansions behind, even though they got another house at some lake somewhere, But they're not looked down on and discriminated, even though they're living in a tiny house, It's a trip, y'all. Stuff is by design. Don't fall for the game. Yep. What did you think of the video?
I can't remember what the video was.
OMG. And she didn't smoke a blunt yet today, too. That's amazing. I asked her, too. I'm like, did you get to smoke your blunt? Because she couldn't find a lighter on her way out the door.
But I will agree with you on, the wealthy people, hopping on a trend, going small, living in a van. They don't get caught out on it.
They do not. Right? But we got people living in RVs because they have to, with no water hookups because there's none for them. We're not mad at the house people who are like hoarding all this wealth. You know, I would go to tiny house conferences on purpose, like where like the rich go, and I would get on the panels to just be like, instead of buying your tiny house, why don't you donate it to an unhoused person? And I would go to these conferences a lot. One, because I love tiny houses. I love building. I can build a house, man. I can design a house. I love that kind of stuff. And but I specifically started going there. The only reason I started going there was try to get some resources to bring back to the people. And out of all those conferences I went all over California and all the people I talked to, I got one person. That's just greed at its best. One person was like, I'll donate a tiny house. It's just wild. Speaking of that, the greed, the hoarding of resources, let's get into a music video. It's called Tech Money. It's by my folks, my brother, Zion I, Stephen Gaines, Rise in Power. He was murdered by Alta Bates Hospital security guard during COVID when he was having a panic attack. They choked him to death. But he is an amazing MC, well-loved in the Bay Area, amongst the underground backpack hip-hop scene, the backpackers. And that's what we used to call them back in the day. I don't know what they're called now. What are the kids that would be called backpackers be called today?
I don't know, because half of them don't even have a backpack on.
No.
They got that little thing on their chest, that little pocket.
Oh.
You know? If
Yes.
it was on a woman, I would call it a purse.
A purse. I know what you're talking about. Yes. Those would be the backpackers.
Right.
Yes. Well, check out this video from Zion I, Tech Money.
It's happening to me. I'm out here right now, moving my whole family on the spur of the moment, and God bless, I even found a spot, and now I'm going further out than I've ever been in 18 years.
That's hella funny.
Tech money. Tech money. Tech money. I see they talk about the ways they get paid. Yeah. Tech money. Tech money. Tech money. Yeah. Seen it in the 90s with the dot-coms. Condo, shiny poppin' gendarmes. We were still grimy, you had no charm. Mainline money till it's no funds. Turn Mission Street to a lounge act. Drunk frat boys where they found at. End up missing how you love that. When your crown get christened all the brown cats. Got pushed out, this ain't your house. Third generation came from down south. Now I got these mummies all in my mouth. Throwing tech money tryna get me out. Seen it all before, watch the wheels spin. We'll be puffin' nails till the world ends. All I wanna do is try to make sense. Love my city, but the gentry's got it real tense. I'm all about business getting built and infrastructure getting built. But why not tap the people who have been here for generations and involve them in the process and empower the people here already? Talk about the ways they get paid. Tech money, tech money, tech money, tech money. Yeah. Seen it once again, now it's too close. Left the Silicon, now it's my folks. Came over the bridge, dashing on hope. Rent sky high, but I tie rope. Wrap around the neck till it's real tight. People can't survive, this is real life. If it's to the town, it don't feel right. Not the way it's going down, what that meal like. Starving from the beach, bitch, she look for salt. Ask OPD, tryna weed us out. Separate the seed from the shaft, bruh. I'll be with my peoples getting strapped up. Move a lot of heat through these masters. So you'll never see me in with these saps, blood. I don't worship money, cue the laughter. It's technology, a blessing, or a cancer. I see they talk about the ways They get paid. Tech money. Tech money. Tech money. Tech money.
Motherfucker can't even afford to pay rent. So expensive out of the city. Where the culture go? They bringing in corporate culture into the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, California. What happened to the people, man? The culture.
Man, and that video was taken while he was packing up because he and his wife and their children lost their housing here in Oakland. Yep. So that was like a real ass song about what he really went through. Yep. Too many of us are going through evictions. A lot of these evictions are illegal. You know, just want to put out there, if you ever are facing an eviction, please look up the Eviction Defense Network. If you get an eviction notice, that's when they will help you. And just so you know, most 24-hour notices are fake. Most 3-hour or 3-day notices, or 3-day notices that they put up on there, those are fake too. The first thing you need to do is just take it to Eviction Defense. They'll charge you $100 and they will fight it all the way. They will win because they're that good. They got like a 99%, success rate. I've used them several times when facing illegal evictions, and the only time I've ever been successfully evicted was when we voluntarily left the house from the landlady who was trying to illegally evict me, and when she realized that wasn't going to work, and when the community held her accountable, that wasn't going to work. So she started had her sons threaten my daughter, or be weird to my kids. So we figured it was going to be safer just to risk it, in a camper in abandoned houses. But yeah, Eviction Defense Network, they really do their job. So if you're facing any kind of eviction, the only thing is that they will help you if you have an eviction in hand. So you bring one of them fake ones, they'll help you. If you bring a real one, and most landlords won't do the real ones because they got to evict a tenant, it starts at $12,000 for them. To really evict you the proper way, Alameda and Oakland actually have some decent, not the best, but decent tenant laws. And if you know the laws, you can work the system and actually fight back on a lot of this illegal activity these greedy-ass landlords be doing. So, and there's really only 3 ways a landlord can evict you from your home. And it's called the Just Cause Ordinance, and it got put in place in, I think, 1999, something like that, 1998. The only 3 ways they can evict you is, 1, if you haven't paid rent. If you have not paid rent, they can't evict you. They still got to do it the right way. So a 24-hour notice, a 3-day notice, that's fake. They still got to evict you the right way. They can evict you if you've damaged the property, but they still got to evict you the right way. And they can evict you if they want to move their family members into your house. And so some landlords don't know about that. The landlords who have caught on to that have been using that in a not so honest way. So then it becomes you really need to have them prove that they're really going to be moving in their family members into the house. And but those are the 3 ways they can evict you here in Oakland, California, if they want to. And I also want to get some let y'all know about some stuff that's happening this weekend. Can we show that first photo, DJ Igor? For a walk to end all hostilities is happening this Saturday. A bunch of organizations are putting this on. They're going to be starting at, I think, 98th. Let me make this bigger. Yep, it starts at 11 a.m. People are going to start walking at 98th and East 14th all the way to City Hall. And a whole bunch of groups are coming together, different organizations, different businesses. whatnot. And my folks with the Artivist Cadre are the ones who told me about it, and I'm sharing it with y'all. You know, it'll be a nice walk, bring some water, burn some calories, be amongst folks who want to see an end to the violence happening here in our streets. You know, it's got to start somewhere, right? And so that's happening this Saturday. And on Sunday, this Sunday, so DJ Black, who's been a hip-hop DJ here in the Bay Area for a very long time. I've known her for more than 30 years, and all those years she's been a DJ. And now she's actually like entered into the realm of house music, which is amazing to watch her get into a new kind of music, and it's dope watching her mix them together too. But she's doing a party this Sunday, and she's calling it the 3rd annual Her Story. And I guess because it's the 3rd year she's been doing it at Oeste Lounge and Restaurant, right there on across the street from where Do It for the Culture is at. Is that Clay Street or Washington? Is it Washington? Right there on Washington and 7th, kind of across around the corner from the police department, the courthouse. So she says it's her 3rd annual Her Story celebration because she's been doing this specific event there for 3 years. But back in the day, there was a crew that she was part of called the Her Story Crew, and it was these bomb-ass like women who just did all different kinds of artwork, but they were all like unified through hip-hop. But they were all different, from filmmakers to poets to MCs to DJs to dancers to photographers to R&B singers to producers. They were dope, and they were called the Her Story Crew. And they used to throw a Her Story party, amongst many other parties. They threw tons of parties, but one of the parties they threw was Her Story. But this weekend, catch DJ Black, one of the original founders of the Her Story Crew, throwing the Her Story celebration. Other members of the Her Story Crew will probably be there. And it's also going to be a Know Your Rights training with Oakland Rising will be there. And they're going to be training folks on how to protect themselves and their neighbors under this new situation with, they're coming after undocumented folks, coming after trans folks, preparing even when they start coming after the Muslims again. So this is going to just be a whole conversation about how to protect yourself or protect your neighbors when the time comes, and know what our rights are and how things are changing. And then finally, 510 Day, it's coming up around the corner. It's coming together. We're excited. It's going to be good. It's the 10th year. First time it's ever been on a Saturday. We anticipate it's going to be huge. The main stage is going to be music. There is a possibility of I'm not going to say. It'll be music unless we can get a confirmation that some folks that we're asking to come through can make it because they're not on tour. And if not, it's going to be all DJs that day, plus the drums. So we're going to make the drum circle the center and call not just the drummers there, but activate the whole drum community of Oakland. And because that's what a Saturday looks like at the lake. Mostly we got a stage right there every year, right there at the amphitheater, or not the dome place, the dome over where the drum circle is. And since we're here on the Saturday, we don't want to smash on them. They're one of the folks, they're one of the communities that get smashed on by the gentrifiers. So rather than replace the main stage with the main stage, we're going to have the drummers be main stage all day with some DJs and speakers. And then we're going to have stages all over the lake. Joyce, you want to talk about some of the spots that you're working on with folks? Some of the different stages?
Yeah, we're going to have a youth section going on. We'll have some screen printing, some youth organizations coming through, tabling, have some activities for the kids, art station as well. We're also gonna have a graffiti station, have some people live painting, and
TDK in the house, live painting. Yee!
And we'll also have a community wall for people to hit up too.
Yep. And then one thing I'm excited about too is that Black Book Party. There's a Black Book Party for graffiti artists that happened. You can talk about that?
Yeah. It's gonna be run by Ash, and she's gonna have some papers and pens and markers. Just bring your black book, come draw out there.
And drawing other folks' black books. It's a beautiful thing. So there's there'll be an open mic being brought to you by Afro Entertainment. They do right there on across the street from the Cleveland Cascades. There's on Lakeshore. They've been doing a 420 party there every year, and last year they started extending it to be a monthly. So they're gonna get down with 510 Day this year and make that 510 Day Saturday their monthly for the year, for that day, for that month. And so they're gonna be doing what they do and keeping it lit with an open mic and DJs. The biggest thing is that we are really doing what we try to do every year is get as many organizations that you may or may not know about out there, so you can find out what's going on in the community and get involved. That's really what 510 Day is. It's a day to just enjoy and be who we are and be happy and loud about it. But it's also a day to plug in and get active. And one thing that we'd always talked about doing with 510 Day and with the folks at 415 Day, we're going to do a 41510 Day soon. It's been 10 years. We keep on talking about it, but we're going to do it eventually. It has to happen. But was to make 510 Day more than just a day, but a whole movement, because the movement is we still here. And this year we're going to be pushing to have some of the ideas that came out of a 510 Day monthly happy hour for the 20 and 30 and 40 somethings to get together and talk the talk, and build a network around how to make Oakland vibrant and safe and thriving for Black and brown families of the Flatlands. People were talking about some of the parents involved. They're talking about doing a 510 Day monthly play date with families, other families who are still here, who got young children, and just bringing those folks together. So yeah, and officially we will be doing the official 510 Day happy after party over at the Space Lounge at 1707 Telegraph. So, and the days like this crew, which is the house party that happens every Friday, they're going to kind of be the kickoff for the weekend, so you can go there and get down with some house music, DJs to be announced. But we're going to be screening videos there, telling that are different videos from all kinds of different filmmakers and videographers, telling the different points of stories and points of view about Oakland. So it'll be a whole weekend, and it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Hope to see you all there. If you want to get involved, holler. We got Rinaldi Gilders in charge of volunteers if you want to get plugged in as a volunteer. This is a whole volunteer effort. We all do this out of the love. But if you want to plug in with the volunteer team, which is all of us involved, you can call Rinaldi Gilder, or not call, but email Rinaldi Gilder, REINALDIGILDER356@gmail.com. If you are an organization or a vendor who wants to vend, she's in charge of the marketplace. That's the marketplace coordinator. Joyce, can you give them your info?
My phone number is 510-472-2066. My email is joyousdeasis@gmail.com. Hit me up. I'll send you the vendor application and the flyers as well.
And that's that. And we're going to cut it short today because we have to go. The Lumpia ladies are in effect tonight. We got an event to be at the Swell Bar in Alameda. Is a comedy night. We're going to be there. Then after comedy's over, they do karaoke. So we'll be there all night with chicken lumpias, dynamite lumpias, shrimp rolls, taro buns, and vegetable buns. Come and get some.